What's going on, everybody? Zack Rosenblatt here at US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota, here with Mike Kaye for the latest episode of the No Huddle Show. The Eagles just lost to the Vikings 38-20. It was a very poorly played game from the Eagles, especially on defense. They jumped out to a 14-0 deficit?
10-0, and then they scored more points after that.
But yeah, so it was. The Eagles are now 3-3. It never really felt like there was points where they were making some progress, but I never really felt like they were actually in this game. But like, what was your last week we said how there was no takeaways, and I think it proved that came true this week. Because all the things that worked last week, like either were non-existent today, like Orlando Scandrick, Craig James, Nick Gary, like guys like that were non-existent. But like the pass rush wasn't quite there the same way. Carson Wentz was there, and we'll talk about that. It seems like that's kind of been a little bit of hot buttony type thing. But like, what was just your overall feeling coming out of this loss?
This secondary needs a lot of help.
Oh, yeah.
Look, Rasul Douglas, I'm pretty sure was playing cover 2, or thought he was in a cover 2 defense. Thought he had some safety help. Gave up 2 huge touchdown passes to Stephon Diggs. He's never going to be a speed guy. That's just not him. I would kind of not sour on Rasul Douglas just yet. But when he's your top corner, and we've said this before, he can be a really good number 2 corner, you're in trouble because, like we said, he does not have that deep speed. And I think when you look at Sidney Jones, at this point, I tweeted this out, like, I don't know what he brings to the table that, like, someone like Craig James,
which is a sad state of affairs,
or Orlando Scandrick doesn't bring. I mean, those guys can get beat for touchdowns too.
So Sidney, I mean, we'll talk about this a little more, but it seemed like he might have got benched for a little bit there. It sounded like he played it off like he just needed a breather, which is almost worse. If that's true.
I mean, maybe
worse, but it's not good.
Maybe his hamstring kind of flared up.
I don't know.
Who knows? I mean, with him,
that's the thing,
know.
man. But yeah, so I mean, keep going with whatever you were saying.
Well, I mean, I think the Eagles felt good about this secondary coming into this game just because Jalen Mills is on the verge of returning. Crayvon LeBlanc will come back soon. But I don't think you can wait. You know, Ronald Darby, even if he comes back, probably
what are you getting from him?
Like, you don't know what you're getting there. Avonte Maddox has had a sophomore slump even before he got injured. They need an alpha. You know, there are rumors out there about Patrick Peterson getting interest from other teams, and the Cardinals don't want to trade him. I mean, Howie's got to do his due diligence. Like, I don't think William Jackson, who's been connected to the Eagles, is like a sure thing either. All of these cornerbacks, if they're available, aren't sure things.
Besides Jalen Ramsey, of course, we don't know if he's available.
Well, and after his back injuries kept him out of a few games, you don't know if he might be rusty off the jump. So, excuse me. This secondary needs help, and I don't know if that's kind of changing up the system a little bit. They used Malcolm Jenkins a lot in single high, which is something they normally don't do. Normally it's Zendejo or Rodney McLeod. I don't know why that was. But there seemed to be a lot of mistakes in coverage. I believe Malcolm Jenkins said that you know, there were issues with communication. You know, I think when you look at the secondary, yeah, it's a benefit because the safeties are really good. But when you have corners that can't run or cover for more than 3 seconds, you're just not going to win games. And I think, or games against good wide receivers.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Thielen and Diggs are probably the best wide receiver tandem outside of maybe what the Rams have. This is tough. Like,
and they complement each other so well as it makes it tough. Yeah.
Right. And they match up very well against these corners in the Eagles secondary. They need help. And, you know, from my perspective, that was like the biggest takeaway, obviously, because
it was from the get-go.
When you look at, like, when you compare the yardage and everything, they were pretty similar. The Vikings just were able to find the end zone when they made deep plays, and the Eagles just couldn't do that with regularity. I also will say I'm kind of done seeing Miles Sanders as the lead back. It seems like the Eagles are as well. That said, I do think he has developed into an impressive receiver and a deep threat. He's got 5 catches of over 30 yards this season, scored his first touchdown this game. Jordan Howard, I thought, played relatively well given the space that he was able to work with. But the Eagles did try to establish the run quite a bit in the first half, and it didn't seem to work. And
their first 3 plays of the game.
Right. The first play of the game was actually supposed to be a pass. They checked out of it. Carson, on the next drive, he had to wait 7 plays to throw a pass. That's not helpful.
The defense was on the field for the first 7 minutes of the game.
Yeah, that first drive was meticulous.
That was killer.
You get your jitters before the game, and you're ready to go out there, and you're feeling yourself, and then you got to wait on the sideline for 7 minutes.
And then you go 3 and out.
Right. It's rough. It's rough. And the Eagles kind of never found their footing. There were times where Carson Wentz kind of willed this team down the field, and it still wasn't enough. I felt like his teammates let him down. You and I have been critical of Carson in the past. I think, and rightfully so. We've then in turn received criticism for being too positive or too negative.
Carson. There's no winning when you talk about.
Yeah, somebody's going to complain about this podcast, but. Today, I really did feel like Carson was part of the solution and was in turn let down by a lot of his teammates. The defense, obviously, the biggest culprit, allowing 38 points. Yeah. You're not going to win a lot of football games when your team allows 38 points.
No, I'd say that's fair.
It's just not a thing. And, I don't know if the Eagles came in overconfident. I don't know if they really had the horses to kind of run with the Vikings wide receivers, which clearly they didn't. And Kirk Cousins had a masterful game. I thought he played his butt off. The only blunder he had was an interception that wasn't really even his fault. So, again, I think you take away that this defense is just not as talented as we thought it was.
Yeah, I think we've kind of learned that over the course of the season so far. And so, that's the ironic thing. So, Jim Schwartz has both done an amazing job with what he has at times, and he also has done a lot of questionable things. Like, he should be having a safety there. I don't know if that's his fault or if there's communication issues, but there should be a safety to help Rasul Douglas against Stephon Diggs every single play.
I noticed there were several communication errors. There was an error where Josh Sweat had to run off the field and switch with Kamugraj Hill, and they didn't know if they had too many men on the field prior to a Dalvin Cook huge gain. There just seemed to be a lot of communication errors, and I don't know if that has to do with how loud this stadium got, because believe me, this stadium might have been actually louder than the Saints Stadium or Dome last year.
It was comparable, at least.
Yeah.
I think the Saints Stadium, is actually smaller, so it's kind of condensed a little more. So
right.
I don't know if there's...
Maybe it's the acoustics.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the acoustics. But they're both very loud, and we notice it more for these because we're in the stadium as opposed to being closed off. But
and we should point out, if you're hearing any excess noise,
we're in the open press box, right?
Yeah, everything's open. You're out in the open, and this is an amazing stadium. If you get the opportunity
really cool.
to take the visit.
Eagles won the Super Bowl here. I don't know if you heard about that.
Oh wow, yeah. We were actually probably the only members of the beat
I know
that weren't there for it.
But okay, so I want to touch on Doug Peterson in a second, but before I do, because you were talking about how Carson Wentz's teammates let him down. I think we've reached a point now where whether Deshaun comes back, when he does, whatever. First of all, he's going to be rusty at first, and that injury could linger anyway. But I think we've reached a point now where Howie needs to also go out and find a receiver to help this group. Because number one, it doesn't seem like Doug Peterson trusts the receivers, because I think that's why they ran the ball so much, and it wasn't working, and they kept trying. Miles Sanders being a much better receiver than I expected is great, but he also shouldn't be your number one deep threat. He's your running back. That's just the reality. Mac Hollins, it was a tough play to make, but Carson Wentz had a beautiful throw to him in the corner of the end zone, and he just dropped it.
Well, he should have been called for offensive pass.
Yeah, and he should have been called for OPI, but it was a catchable, beautifully thrown ball. Nelson Aguilar was fine today. He didn't make any glaring mistakes, which is a step up from last few weeks. Zach Ertz was just really bad. It was maybe his worst game as an Eagle, or at least since he became a star.
Yeah, this was definitely...
He had a drop and a fumble when the game was pretty much already over, but it definitely was over after the fumble.
Yeah, this was definitely his worst showing in the last 2 years, I think.
By the way, Dante Pettis, I believe, is having a good game today. So his ears were tickling when we were talking about him.
Well, the thing is
they're killing the Rams right now.
San Francisco is going to be undefeated through 5 games. I don't know if they're necessarily going to be sellers, but...
Yeah. Do you agree with me that they need to do something? They need to do something about the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it the other day. I think wide receiver and cornerback are obviously the two positions that,
and then pass rusher, I guess.
Right, but yeah, I mean, I think they need to find like a contingency plan for Deshaun Jackson. Whether he returns or not, you still need horses to run down the field. You saw how important that was with Stephon Diggs, how much he opened things up. And I think when we look back at this game, there were opportunities for them to really win this one. I mean, they lost a lot of momentum when Jake Elliott was asked to do a fake field goal pass.
So let's get into this. So Doug Peterson, I think he deserves some criticism for his decisions today. But so this one in particular, if you for some reason didn't watch the game or whatever, so the Eagles, there was 20 seconds left. The Eagles were on the, I believe the 20
they were on the 21-yard line.
They didn't have any timeouts left. It was it fourth? Yeah, it was fourth down.
And 4.
So they go out to kick a field goal, but then it's a fake field goal where they snap it to Jake Elliott and he goes to throw the ball and nobody's open, so he just throws it away for an interception. The logic being that I guess Doug said that they wanted to get a first down and then try and go for the end zone a few times, but that's 20 seconds, so you're relying on your kicker to throw it. Just give it to Carson Wentz if you're trying to score a touchdown.
Correct.
I just did not his explanation didn't make sense to me. Jake Elliott trying to explain it didn't really do it for me. I just for an organization and coach that's so analytics driven, I just don't see how the analytics say that was a good move.
So I've kind of held off on going on rants, but here's how dumb this play is. Think about the logic here. So Jake Elliott has been automatic this season. Entering that play, he was 6 of 6 on field goals. It just kicked his longest field goal of the season, a 53-yarder.
Yes.
This was a chip shot. The logic told you, hey, you kick this field goal, you drop, you're getting the ball back at halftime, take the points.
Another factor, yeah, they're getting the ball back.
Take the points, you cut the lead to an 11-point, lead. I understand either way, it's a 2-possession game, but 2 possessions where you only have to score a touchdown and a field goal as opposed to 2 touchdowns is more beneficiary to you. You also just produced back-to-back really impressive drives. Keep that momentum going. Logic tells you to kick a 39-yard field goal. Okay. What do the analytics tell you? Okay, if the analytics say, you know what, go for it on 4th down, take 3 shots to the end zone.
Then go for it.
Don't take the ball out of the hands of the offense
and put
him in the hands of a kicker who's never thrown a pass. I mean, I just don't understand the logic there. On top of that, Doug Peterson said the play design was meant to lead Dallas Goedert out of bounds. Okay, cool. So you have a kicker who not only needs to complete a pass to a tight end, but he needs to lead him out of bounds, because if he gets stopped in bounds, you're going to have to clock it with said kicker.
You're asking a
dumb.
lot. You're asking a lot of a kicker to throw the ball.
Right. On top of it, here's how ill-equipped Jake Elliott was to be in this position. He said, "I saw that Dallas was covered, so I had to make something happen." Okay, cool. Yeah, you don't want to throw the ball away because then you're off the field.
Over,
yeah, you're off the field anyway.
So you just threw it up or whatever.
He just threw it up. It got deflected. It got intercepted by Everson Griffin. I asked Carson Wentz to his face, "Hey, don't you want to be out there when this happens?" And he said, the coach makes the calls, and if it works out, it's awesome. If not, it's just football. That's ridiculous. The dude led 2 back-to-back impressive drives, put the ball in his hand, give the ball to Alshon Jeffrey, do something like that. Doug Peterson's a brilliant play caller, but sometimes I feel like he
overthinks.
Maybe he's just overconfident in how slick he is. Yeah. And I just think this just didn't pay off. And, that's going to happen sometimes. Look, it wasn't the final nail in the coffin for this team. They gave up another 14 points in the second half. This Eagles team is not built to have a shootout with a team that can put stuff up in the 30s because they don't have Deshaun. But yeah, I mean, don't do that again. Basically.
And, even just to jump onto that, if the idea was to get a completion and then get a few shots at the end zone, why not let Carson Wentz throw it to the sideline? What? I don't know. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Vikings would have been just as equipped to deal with the the field goal thing clearly as they would a 4th and 4.
I just feel like this partially just shows the lack of confidence he has in the receivers right now.
And I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. When you can only, they barely targeted Zack Ertz until the end of the game. It was mostly
His
Goddard.
first target was at the very end of the first half.
Yeah, when you consider
His first catch was at the very end of the first
when
half.
you consider the fact that Wentz didn't throw a pass into the last play of the first quarter, that kind of plays into it too. But again, I just think when you look at this team and you look at what they do well, I would have, on my list, I would have never said special teams trick plays, So, yeah, that's not smart.
And so, by the way, Alshon Jeffrey, who put up good numbers, but it still feels like they are only using him as he's only become like a screen wide receiver now.
It's because they don't trust him to I guess they don't trust him downfield.
When was the last time they targeted him down the field? I can't even remember. It was he had a good touchdown. He tends to score a touchdown every time he plays the Vikings. But like he almost feels like, I know he got 10 catches, but he still feels like more of a decoy right now.
For sure. I think that's fair. It's rough. Look, they're not in a great spot right now.
Yeah. So, a few other topics. So, between our last podcast and today, Zach Brown talked some smack about Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
He basically said, like, in order to beat them, you just have to give the ball to Kirk Cousins because he's their weak link or whatever. And that came back to bite him. He didn't have a good game. Kirk Cousins had a great game. The Vikings Twitter trolled him.
Understandably so, and well-deserved, to be honest.
Not, Kirk Cousins claims he didn't hear any of it. I don't think I believe that. It was everywhere. What did you make about all that hullabaloo?
Zach Brown isn't just a role player. He's probably the weakest link on the Eagles' defense. So for him to call a quarterback the weakest link on an offense, originally when I read the quote, because I was somewhere else in the locker room, I thought he was saying that he was the weakest link.
Yeah,
I'm like, wow,
self-proclaiming.
Wow, that's some great self-awareness there. But he was terrible today. So basically on point with his
and Nigel
criticisms.
Bradham got hurt, by the way.
Yes,
Ankle.
he did.
Left the game.
Linebacker. I might get called out for this, but not a major loss.
Yes. They just don't have much talent at linebacker right now, and maybe they don't need it, but you need talent somewhere in the defense, and they don't have depth at safety. They don't have that much talent at corner right now.
They're being
the defensive line doesn't have much depth, so I don't really know where you go from there. But
it means Camus Grugier-Hill's going to have to stop being eased in.
Yeah, he started playing a lot more once Nigel went out.
Right. So what you'll end up having if Nigel has to miss time will be Nathan Gary at middle linebacker. Camus will play Will, and then Zach Brown will hopefully be moved to Sam because he really is just not that good. Look, them's the cards you're dealt, dude. I know it's tough for Eagles fans to hear that, but it's the NFL and it's a war of attrition, and right now attrition's beating the hell out of the Eagles. You know what I mean? It's rough.
So let's go through some of the positives that you can take away from this game. I think we can talk about Carson Wentz now. I think we talked about him a little bit already, but I think he made some really impressive throws. He had one in particular down the sideline. It looked like in the moment it looked risky because there was a guy there, and he got it like just over his outstretched arm. I think it was Trey Waynes.
Yeah,
corner,
it was
and he got it to Alshon. But it was I don't even think Alshon realized that it was coming to him because he could have scored pretty much if he was en route better. The deep ball still isn't really there for them right now, either in terms of accuracy or the receivers getting there. But I thought Carson, by the end when the game was already over, he didn't look that great. But I don't know if you docked him for that in your grades. Like I know he threw a pick, but the game was already over at that point.
Yeah, no, I gave him a C+ for turnover grade because he almost had one earlier in the fourth quarter to Anthony Barr. Look, Carson, I felt like Carson played well. I thought he led drives well. He spread the ball around like he always does. He evaded contact at all. He protected the offensive line from at least 3 or 4 sacks. And it's difficult when you have to be the protector of your offensive line as opposed to, the natural progression of, being protected by your offensive line. And, look, Carson, this game showed that Carson isn't going to be the guy that can will a team down the field all the time, go score for score with another high-powered offense. You need the defense's help. You need the running game's help. And you can't have all these blunders. I mean, when a team is able to score immediately, and no matter how you answer, there's no solution, that's difficult. I mean, these corners are toast. The linebackers are just not where they need to be. The defensive line's not forcing enough pressure. And the wide receivers aren't trustworthy.
So other than that, everything's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think the running game's fine.
Yeah.
But
and the special teams game has been pretty good.
Yeah.
Kicking and punting at least.
Right. So, look, again, I don't know where you go from here. Because I don't want to...
Well, the thing is, the NFC East is so wide. So the Cowboys, as we're recording this, are losing to the Jets 21-9 in the fourth quarter. So the Cowboys clearly were fluky with the bad teams they played. The Eagles... It's safe to say are not a great team, and I also think it's safe to say are not a bad team either. They're somewhere in the middle, probably average. That might be good enough to win the division.
Well, and that's my point, too, is we said that we shouldn't take anything away from the Jets game, but we also shouldn't,
dismiss it completely, yeah.
Well, we shouldn't dismiss that, but we also shouldn't grant so much power to this game either.
Yeah.
They're going to play...
Beginning of a 3-game road trip, yeah.
This division's going to come down to who wins the most division games. That's really what it's going to be. And if they can beat Dallas,
they're ahead of the curve, yeah.
They're ahead of the curve, and then, they play a good Buffalo team that doesn't put up a lot of points. That's actually going to be a really interesting matchup. But then they get to go home and they can play the Bears, who are one of the more inconsistent offenses in the league.
Trubisky should be back by then, you would think.
Right.
We don't need to talk about that. And one more thing, injury-wise. So Jason Peters apparently hurt his knee. He came back in, then he didn't play the rest of the second half. He seemed like he was walking around. Okay, nobody talked to him, but it kind of feels like another one of those Jason Peters, I'm going to take this half off kind of things. Andre Dillard struggled at first, and I think he settled down after a while, though. I don't know how much you were able to watch him, but I think you didn't really hear from him in a bad way after the halftime.
Yeah, I thought he kind of collected himself. It's tough to go into a game, off the bench, especially when it's up against a Pro Bowl player like Everson Griffin. But, he's got to respond to this. If he needs to make his first career start next week, he needs to deliver. There's no excuse for coming off the bench or not getting reps at the first team. He's going to have to,
block DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Because they'll move him around, I'm sure.
Yeah, they will.
By the way, so Amari Cooper did leave the game for the Cowboys and has not returned with a quad injury. That's definitely something to keep an eye on because he killed the Eagles when they were pretty much healthy at corner last year. And now he'll be going against Rasul Douglas, probably.
Probably again.
So, that's a scary matchup for the Eagles, so that's something to keep an eye on. Where do you this team is almost weirder than it was last season, I feel like. Because last season, they didn't really even show that many flashes of them being really good. They've shown some flashes of that, but it's so inconsistent. I don't really know what to make of this team. It doesn't feel like a Super Bowl contender, I'll say that.
It's weird because I think we get caught up in the fact that Deshaun Jackson's not playing and then build that up as being oh man, if he came back, he'd be terrific.
They didn't have him the Super Bowl year either.
But even
I know.
They can win without Deshaun. They need to be better, clearly, but I'm perplexed because I was not expecting this heavy game from this Eagles team after coming off of two really nice wins. The Vikings are a good team. That's just what it is.
In the way this team goes, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they came out and had this fantastic game against the Cowboys next week. And then they turn around again against the Bills and are disappointing. It seems like we're headed for a season where week to week everybody's going to be super hyped on this team again, or everybody's going to be super down on this team again. And right now everybody's down on them because this, the final score I think reflects how it was because they brought it closer. They were they're good at being resilient, but you got to stop going down early. Every time they lose, it's in part because they fell behind by 2 touchdowns.
Right. You
just can't do that I don't.
That's the nail on the head, man.
At what point does Doug get fully criticized for that? I know everybody has kind of talked about it, but he kind of just passes it off. Oh, we're going to sit back and figure it out. But why haven't they figured it out yet? It's the second year this is happening.
Yeah,
he gets out-coached in the first quarter every week.
Well, I think it all has to do with scripting, right? Andy Reid was known as
write a better script.
Yeah, well, Andy Reid was known for his pregame planning and was criticized for his lack of adjustments. Doug Peterson's really good at adjusting in game.
He's like the opposite.
Yeah,
almost,
so again, there are very few perfect coaching situations.
For sure.
But they need to start faster. I mean, like, we can beat that horse to death even more, but look, just play better. I got nothing else.
It was that kind of game, though. It really was. All right, we'll end on that note. We'll be back. We'll hit you guys another podcast early in the week. We'll get back on our routine, and leave us some comments, write reviews, and we'll read them on the show. Thanks, guys.